Okay guys, the situation in the country when it comes to farming is pretty much very dire. And from what I get online, this is what I get.
There's so many farms right now that were generational, and all of a sudden, people from other countries are standing in line to buy these farms. Do you know that the average farmer nationwide right now is 60 years old? In 5 to 10 years, a lot of farmland is going to be sold. We're actively losing our land to foreign nationals everywhere. If I was from India, I could go form an LLC and I could buy a piece of property in the United States under an LLC name, and it would be perfectly legal. That should be disturbing because whoever controls the food controls the people. Whoever's controlling the food will eventually control you. Grandparents had huge farms. They raised food on those farms. They fed people. They fed communities, they fed states, they fed nations. Everybody wants to get littler and littler and littler when our grandparents wanted more. Please, if your family owns a farm, if your family owns land, do not sell the land.
He's right, you guys. Nowadays, the land pretty much costs a lot of money. So that's why if you got a piece of land, don't forget, hang on to that. And if you can allow yourself to, grow you something out of that land, go for it. Grow some veggies, grow something. Feed the people, feed the communities, feed everybody, because if we keep this situation going on, just like that man just said, if other people around the world are actually planning on coming and controlling how everybody eats around in here in the US, that's kind of a crisis.
Have y'all heard the news what JD Vance is doing? He set up Acre Trader, which is a website where overseas entities, big conglomerates, can come in and buy these farms that are being foreclosed on right now.
That is the short story. The story that should be breaking news, but it isn't. Despite what a bombshell this is, it's actually somewhat old news that I was shocked to find out the disturbing details of today.
American people are losing their farms left and right now. And JD Vance knew this was coming.
And that video that we'll dive into more throughout this one was posted just last week on March 28th. And y'all, it led me down an unsurprising yet simultaneously shocking wormhole of just how and why perhaps JD Vance has transitioned from a Silicon Valley hillbilly entrepreneur, never Trump guy, to piggybacking off of Trump's stupidity or culpability for deteriorating America's global hegemony for the sake of our enemies, whichever you want to call it, right? For his own personal gain. And not only that, right, it's bad enough to be a greedy elitist SOB that gets off to spreading their seed.
I mean, if that is truly the case, guys, and if truly the vice president is actually selling land for foreigners to come in and actually own that land and not even do nothing, and more people end up hungrier, and we actually have to rely on way more companies to eat like super treated food, for example. Like, we cannot survive just on ramen, We gotta eat some beef. We gotta eat some real food.
Right now, there's a fight going on in Point Reyes. They just shut down a dozen farms, just like that. It's a fight that was going on for the last 8 years. Really doubled down on those farmers 2 years ago, and they put a gag order on them, so they couldn't even ask the community to stand up for them.
So they went out like they shut them down, meaning they can't even have cows or anything?
They've got to move off the property. They've been there for over 100 years. Those dairies started in 1857, and a lot of the same families have been there the whole time. Our local RCD even came up with money to upgrade the ranches if needed, and the environmental group said no thanks. They wanted to take the land over, and so they forced these farmers to sign an agreement that are pushing them all out. So we're going to lose half of our dairies in Marin County and a bunch of the beef ranches that provide local food.
Yeah, so basically with the new instructions where farmers don't have aids anymore, for example, or not as much as they had before, the farms currently are not sustainable anymore, and they're not able to actually grow anything anymore or even do anything anymore. And that's why they end up actually getting thrown from their own farms that, in this case, for example, they were owning for years and years, like more than 100 years or something like that. So it's absolutely crazy to see that some people are getting thrown from their own homes that they've had for years just over help that they should have gotten, you know, because literally they are the people feeding everybody in this country in a way.
Alright guys, I didn't really want to have to get on here and do this, but
Oh
I
no.
had to. These are fiberglass stakes right here. Those big bulky stakes on the back of the truck, wooden stakes. I called 2 weeks ago to get a quote on these fiberglass stakes because we need some more stakes this year. I got a quote, 83 cents. I called the man this morning. I said, hey, I know these tariffs are crazy and everything going on. I said, what can you do me on those fiberglass stakes now if we needed a load? It's a 3-month ETA from time you place the order. He said, Taylor, he said, you don't want to hear this price and I'm about to give you. And I said, well,
no.
give it to me anyways. He said, each of those steaks now is going to be $1.74 a piece. And I said, well,
Literally,
you know, and I know
$1 more, almost.
we can't do that, and that's going to be impossible. So that's just to let you know a little bit of what we're going through out here on our farm and what farmers in general are going through. These tariffs,
Yeah, see?
not the best thing for our country. I voted for Trump.
Literally, the expenses of anything that even a farmer needs to actually grow anything in its farm is getting pretty expensive. Instead of a couple cents, like 86 cents that he said for one rod or whatever, now he has to pay $1.70 something. So basically almost $1 of difference. And yes, that makes a lot of difference because if he wants to keep up now, instead of grabbing everything that he needs, he will literally just be able to grab half of what he needs and grow half of what he used to grow. So I see it just as a problem to people because now we're gonna have only half of the supplies. Yeah, it's not magically that, you know, you're gonna come up with some money from anywhere. You know, you gotta work to make that money, and you gotta have that money so that you can buy the supplies you need so that you can make the food, you know. But let's go see this clip because this clip is kind of funny and the Chinese are still attacking, and on this one it's kind of weird. Oh my god. With the Cybertruck in the back. Oh no, look at that very old guy. Oh my god. I mean, from one perspective, growing a lot of stuff in the country is gonna be very nice, you know, because in a way, growing stuff in the country feels always nice. But if you tell me we gotta pay top dollar for it,
every day I get on social media and I see a post that says, or a comment that says, nobody wants to farm anymore, everybody's lazy, don't go sell your grandparents' farm that they tried to hang on to their entire life. Every single time it comes from a person that has not farmed and will never farm. Our society is so far removed from agriculture, it feels like the farmers are in one world and the consumers are in another. When you make comments like that, you're...
Very true. A lot of people don't even know where actually meat comes from, for example. And I was surprised as well to learn that, I'm telling you.
You're saying, I'm not doing that work, I don't want that burden, but I want you to keep doing it. I don't ever tell the amount we have. I don't like telling it because it's private information. My husband works a full-time job. I do this by myself. We have over 1,300 acres. We run about 120 cows and we've got a few hundred sheep. And I am tired. I am worn out and I am sad. This farm may not mean anything to anybody else, but it is a legacy to me and my family. And I don't want to lose it. I'm the only person here that can keep it. I don't have brothers and sisters. I do have 5-year-old twins and a husband. I don't get to leave. The money we make goes straight back into this farm. You have to want this to do this. The average person could not do what I do. You can't learn this quickly. You can't do a 2-week training for this. I've spent my entire life here, and every day I learn something new. The average person wouldn't want to do this. There are no breaks. I work all day long. I go home. I wash clothes, do what I can, cook supper, clean up, and then we sit down on the couch. I get up early and I do not sit down before 9 o'clock at night. I don't
Dang.
quit anything.
She's working hard.
And today's the day I want to quit. And every other farmer, I am sure, feels that way. If they don't, they might feel that way tomorrow. This farm used to entirely be surrounded by farms. Now it is entirely surrounded by houses. Everyone wants to look at farmland. They want to look at the cows. They want to look at the sheep. But the moment you have something out, they're going to lose their mind. They're calling the sheriff's department. They won't take you to court, all the things. You can't win doing this. You can't.
Yeah.
If I sold this farm or I quit, I don't know if I could keep living. That would be the biggest failure I could ever have.
Come on, don't do that now.
I'll look at anybody else that was in my shape and say, quit, get out. Live your life and have some joy. So when you sit down tonight to eat your supper or you go to eat your lunch, I hope you think about what I said, because this is not easy. I want to quit. I'm going to keep going today, and I'm going to keep going tomorrow. But I don't know that I see a future for anybody doing this after that.
Damn, and it's pretty sad that we have to listen to even somebody speak like that, because it's horrible for somebody to come up to these conclusions that now, nowadays, it's absolutely kind of impossible to have something sustainable as a farm. And in her case, she is the last one in line, you know, like she doesn't have any siblings that she can count on that can help her with all of her property and all of that. So she's got to do it all by herself. And it's, you know, becoming very, very tough to be sustainable nowadays.
Tonight, many of America's farmers already feeling the pinch are worried about the possibility of more challenges. That's because President Trump is threatening to deport millions of undocumented immigrants, creating uncertainty about the future of the workforce.
And more tariffs could mean more trouble for Iowa farmers. The latest rates with China means that some of the state's biggest ag exports can be staying at home and could be costing farmers a lot of money.
I hope for either a second pause to get me through harvest, or that time is negotiated to get a deal with those countries that are involved.
America's farmers have ignited a rebellion that threatens to upend the modern food supply. Thousands of tractors now sit frozen at the border, entire harvests stalled in the sun, and the company once considered untouchable, John Deere, has gone completely silent. But this story isn't about broken machines, it's about a broken system. What began as a quiet standoff at a dusty checkpoint has become something far more dangerous, an uprising. From Iowa to Sonora, farmers are taking back control, and the shockwaves are now rattling supply chains, financial markets, and family dinner tables around the world. It started with what officials called an inspection, but to anyone paying attention, it was a blockade. 3 weeks ago, Mexican customs officers launched what they framed as enhanced agricultural equipment checks. But this wasn't bureaucracy. This was a surgical strike. At two key ports of entry, Laredo and Nogales, over 140 John Deere machines were detained. Not a single one crossed. Meanwhile, Case IH equipment slipped through with barely a glance. Kubota, not even touched. The message was clear. This was not a random enforcement action. It was precise. It was personal.
John Deere.
And it hit Deere where it hurt the most. The timing could not have been more devastating. Mexico's crucial planting season was just weeks away. Fields that needed tractors were sitting empty. Farmers who had already paid for their equipment stood helplessly at the edge of their fields, watching as deadlines passed and soil dried. The stakes weren't just financial, they were existential. And the silence from Deere only fueled suspicion. On the surface, Mexican officials spoke in calm, official tones. National standards, safety compliance, routine inspections. But behind the curtain, something else was unfolding. This wasn't the fallout of a single bad deal. This was retribution. Years in the making. For over a decade, frustration with John Deere had been building, slowly, painfully, and in plain sight. Farmers from Nebraska to Sinaloa had been sounding the alarm for years. Their tractors were brilliant, yes, but they were also shackled. Locked behind layers of proprietary software, farmers couldn't repair their own machines. A malfunction that should cost $50 to fix ended up costing $500 just to unlock the screen. And that was before the part, the labor, or the long wait for the nearest authorized technician. In rural Mexico, that helplessness turned catastrophic. In just 5 years, over 300 farm failures were documented, many tied directly to repair delays and equipment downtime. One farmer had his entire season wiped out because his tractor, stuck 10 meters across the US border, couldn't be delivered on time. Another lost everything after a simple sensor failure triggered a software lock that only a dealer could override, 200 kilometers away. And then the documents leaked. We did the digging. Cross-border research, internal memos, everything. So you don't have to. What those documents revealed shattered any remaining trust. Deere's collapse didn't begin with hardware, it began with hubris. The moment Mexico halted those machines, Deere's stock opened flat. But by midday, it was in free fall. By week's end, the company had lost over 27% of its market value, the single worst week in its 185-year history. $14 billion vanished. Wall Street analysts tried to blame border delays, but they missed the truth. This wasn't about logistics. This was about exposure. Deere's entire business model had relied on one thing: control. Control over diagnostics, control over parts, control over service.
Yeah, that's the problem too. By having all of this craziness happening and the fact that, you know, bringing their machines from other countries because they were made in other countries, and now instead of, for example, for a little part that would cost $50, now it's $500 just for something so small, and you're not even getting into the real maintenance of your tractor or whatever. But on top of that, it's also just like the same example of the McDonald's ice cream machine, and how the company that actually owns it have a contract with them that stipulates that every time the machine breaks, the other company has to come over and fix it itself. McDonald's cannot fix it by themselves. And I believe that's going to be the same thing that's going on for John Deere. And the fact that people cannot fix themselves their own problems and their own tractors, and they have to always rely on John Deere. And now that the fact that John Deere got expensive because of tariffs, you know, it's created a whole mess.
And Mexico had just pulled the plug. Over $1 billion in annual equipment sales, more than $2 billion in parts and service revenue. All of it now frozen, inventory stacked up in Saltillo, late penalties triggered in Monterrey, credit ratings downgraded. Moody's and S&P both slapped Deere with negative watch warnings. Inside headquarters, panic exploded. Liquidity projections were slashed. Burn rate estimates crossed $370 million per week. But the real explosion didn't come from Wall Street. It came from wheat fields in Kansas. Michael Peterson, a farmer whose loyalty stretched back 3 decades, put it simply: 30 years gone in a single invoice.
Damn.
That invoice? A $500 fee to clear a code that took 5 minutes to diagnose.
Wow.
That was the moment he walked away. And he wasn't alone. In Nebraska, the state's largest ag co-op cut all future Deere orders. $40 million, redirected overnight to Case IH and New Holland. Their public statement said it all: "We support companies that support farmers." The American Farm Bureau Federation, representing over 6 million families, issued a rare and brutal rebuke. Full right to repair must be implemented, globally. And they praised Mexico for finally forcing Deere to listen. This wasn't just economic, it was symbolic. These weren't tech activists. These were salt-of-the-earth farmers, men and women who once wore John Deere hats like a badge of pride, now leading a revolt. Forums exploded with guides on cracking Deere's software. Farmer-led coalitions started forming. Hatred was no longer whispered, it was organized, tactical, and very
I mean, it's absolutely insane, guys. If John Deere actually leaves the place, John Deere might be actually leaving everything, or something is going to happen, because I don't think that John Deere's situation is sustainable for the future. And the fact that, just like I said before, they are controlling in a way their own products to the point where even to repair something that's costing you $50, they have to show up or something, for example. So from that perspective, it's on them at the same time.
We have operations located in around 30 countries where we have factories and offices, and Our number one goal is to make sure that we're structuring our business in those markets.
John Deere, a name synonymous with American agriculture and industrial strength, has announced a dramatic shift in its operations that has sent shockwaves through both the manufacturing and agricultural sectors. Under the leadership of CEO John May, the company declared it would shut down its manufacturing operations in the United States and relocate production overseas. This historic decision comes in the wake of a series of sweeping trade measures implemented by newly elected President Donald Trump, who reintroduced aggressive tariffs on foreign imports, triggering retaliatory actions from key global trade partners. The announcement by Deere marks a pivotal turning point in the interplay between American policy, global economics, and the future of domestic industry. Founded in 1837, John Deere has long stood as a pillar of American ingenuity, innovation, and rural identity. Its green and yellow machines are not just tools of the trade for farmers and builders. They are icons of a deeply rooted industrial heritage.
Yeah.
Yet the economic realities created by abrupt trade disruptions have forced the company to reassess its operations. The reintroduction of steep tariffs by the United States government, framed as a move to protect domestic industries, has instead created significant friction across global supply chains. For a company like John Deere, whose products and parts are deeply embedded in international networks, the new landscape is increasingly untenable. At the heart of the issue is cost. The Trump administration's tariff policies were designed to make imported goods more expensive, thereby encouraging consumers and businesses to buy American. However, the complexity of modern manufacturing often defies such simple economic logic. Companies like John Deere depend not only on exporting their machinery to international buyers, but also on importing parts and components from around the world. When tariffs are imposed on these imports, production costs skyrocket. Simultaneously, the retaliatory tariffs from trade partners make it much more expensive for those foreign buyers to import American-made goods. The result is a double bind: higher production costs domestically and reduced demand abroad. For John Deere, the ripple effects of this trade war have become impossible to ignore. Manufacturing in the U.S. has become significantly more costly, while international sales, once a reliable growth engine, have slowed due to foreign tariffs on U.S. exports. With margins tightening and pressure mounting from shareholders, the company's leadership determined that remaining competitive required drastic action. Moving production facilities overseas offers an opportunity to circumvent many of the new financial obstacles. By relocating to countries unaffected by the U.S.-imposed tariffs or those with more favorable trade relations, John Deere can stabilize its production costs and restore access to global markets.
Yeah, basically now, John Deere, for everything that's going on, they literally have to relocate everything now to Mexico. Because, yes, some of their manufacturers and all of that were already in other countries, and they would always send everything, like all the materials and all of that, to the US, and then in the US they would manufacture again, and they would basically just assemble everything in here and then sell to the American people. But now it looks like there's not going to be nothing of that happening, and all of it is going to be formed in other countries, and we'll see how it's going to go. But at the same time, these tariffs, in a way, costs the American people 14,000 jobs that are going to be gone from the territory, you know, which is sad. But hey, those are the repercussions of whatever is going on in the country right now. And it's pretty sad to see that farmers nowadays, it's pretty tough for them to be sustainable in any shape or form or way, because in every directions they turn, they will get striked. Hopefully, they will be able to survive through this wave, you know, and hopefully we can keep on eating good and healthy food, you know. And on that note, guys, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Let me know what you think about this whole situation, about the farming situation in the country. And let me know what you think about the fact that, you know, a lot of farmers are actually losing their properties nowadays. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.